Time community, and welcome to the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru. I'm Teresa.
And I'm Tim.
And together, we're going to walk through Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time book series. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing okay. I'm very glad to be recording a podcast because this is a better place than everywhere else right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So before we get started, we just want to remind you that this is a reread. We assume that you've read the whole series, so there will be spoilers. You have been warned. All right, Tim, what are we going to be doing in today's episode?
Today we're going to be discussing chapters 10 and 11 of The Great Hunt, where Ingtar's group searches for the horn, things get creepy, and Rand is screwed, and Fane is evil.
Always.
Chapter 10 is called The Hunt Begins, and the icon is the horn.
Here's a quick summary to act as a reminder for those of you who are not reading along with us. The hunt is off to the races, and Ingtar sets a hard pace after the horn. Rand tries to ride with Mat and Perrin, but at Mat's urging, they both avoid him, so he still isn't able to apologize to them for his bad behavior. They pause for Uno to read the tracks the Dark Friends left, and he tells Ingtar that despite the punishing pace he has set, they aren't any closer to their quarry. Ingtar insists that they push on, heedless of the danger to the horses, and Rand is surprised when Uno looks at him questioningly. The path Hurin sets them on does not pass by any towns or villages, and eventually Ingtar realizes that they have to stop for the night. Rand tries to change out of his fancy coat, but finds the clothes Marine packed up for him are just as fancy, and he has a hissy fit. Masema gives Rand a hard time, and Ingtar explains that Masema served in the Ale War and has a real hate-on for ale. Rand tries in vain to explain again that he's a shepherd from the Two Rivers. They talk about ale for a while. The next morning, after getting an early start, they come across the leftovers of the Dark Friend camp, finding human bones in the ash from the Trolloc cook fires. Hurin explains that they've changed direction and leads them north for a bit until he stops, saying that they've doubled back and are going south again. They come across the body of a murdered Dark Friend and keep going until they have to stop for the night. They continue this pattern for a few days, zigzagging back and forth, finding dead bodies and signs of the Dark Friend camp each morning. Ingtar grows more frustrated and more desperate as the days pass. They come across a smattering of houses at the River Ernan. The tracks imply that the Dark Friends rode straight through to the ferry and across the river. But Perrin says that things smell wrong. As they search the houses, it seems all the people have disappeared. Uno suddenly spots a woman in a window and runs to the house. He comes back swearing that he saw a woman in white, but the house is empty. Ingtar verifies with Hurin that the Dark Friends crossed the river, and Hurin confirms it and starts to say what they did on the other side before trailing off disturbed. Masema and Regan get across the river to fetch the ferry, and the soldiers start across in batches. Perrin mentions that he can smell bad things waiting for them on the other side. Fane and his Dark Friends left them a present. Hanging from a large tree were the bodies of Changu and Nido. They had been skinned alive. Ingtar orders them cut down and buried properly. They ride on, and along the way they talk about the land they cross and the nations that used to hold them and that no longer exist. Ingtar bitterly laments that humankind is being swept away and that there will be nothing left but Trollocs and Myrddraal. They come across a village that looks just as deserted as the houses by the ferry. Rand goes in to search a house and gets caught in a weird loop of the last moments of a family sitting down to a meal. The loop repeats every time the door bursts open for attack. Rand can't move, and each time more and more flies appear, covering him, and the room starts to freeze. Rand finally manages to touch the source and breaks free of the loop. No one else seems to have had any strange experiences while searching the houses. In the center of the village, they find a Myrddraal has been nailed to a door, spread eagle, with stakes driven through its eyes. Mat asks what could do this to a Fade, but no one has any answer. Ingtar orders the party to ride out of this village, leaving the Myrddraal where it hung, swinging in the wind.
Rand is having problems with trying to reconnect with Mat and Perrin. He thinks that just because he's ready to apologize, Mat and Perrin should be ready to listen. Mm-hmm. I think this is something that's really common among younger men. Like the idea that just because you're penitent and willing to apologize, your apology should be heard. Mm-hmm. Simply wanting to apologize doesn't actually mean the person has to accept it and repair the relationship. It is the action of changing behavior, not repeating the same offense, that actually restores a relationship.
Right.
Rand just wants to jump to the end where he's forgiven and is frustrated that Matt isn't just giving him the opportunity.
This is all totally true, but I still think Matt is being a jerk.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, Rand has been one of his best friends since, like, birth, and he can't give the guy the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, there's that.
It's not like Matt has been above reproach and has never needed to apologize for anything. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
Come on, Matt. I mean, we've already discussed how I'm not Matt's biggest fan until book 3, but his behavior throughout this whole book really puts him in the doghouse for me.
Yeah, he's not the best man we know.
He's terrible in this book. I mean, again, his mind is still probably being twisted around by the dagger. I think that's what we're supposed to infer, that it's not just the physical deterioration, but his mind is even though he doesn't have the dagger with him like he did in the first book, his mind is still being affected by the weirdness or paranoia or just nastiness of the dagger.
True.
But I don't know. Like, I really hate this Matt. I really do. Probably because when you compare him to book 3 and future Matt, like post-healing Matt is so awesome. He's just the best character. So the comparison of what he becomes and what he is now is just, oh, I hate this guy.
It's amazing what a couple thousand years of perspective can offer for your outlook on life,
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. For sure.
Jordan gets away with a character like Uno who swears left and right because the curse words are not the same words that we use today.
Yeah.
I really like Uno. It's just a lot of fun, like listening to him talk and with bloody this and flaming that.
It really is.
It's especially fun later when he tries not to curse in front of certain ladies and can barely get a sentence out.
Yeah, definitely. For minor characters, Uno is way up there and fun.
Absolutely. Ingtar sets a pace that will run the horses into the ground if he keeps it up.
Uh-huh.
This may sound really dumb, but Jordan is the first author that I've ever read that actually took time to explain how horses work. Sometimes you watch a movie or a TV show and you see the good guys chasing down the bad guys on horses at full speed. That never seemed to stop.
Right.
It's like Hollywood has this concept of horses like they're cars that just keep going and going until they run out of gas.
Mm-hmm.
And Jordan was the first author that I ever read that took the time to make sure you understand that horses have limitations.
Mm-hmm.
You actually have to stop riding and walk your horse on long journeys and give it rest every now and then.
Yeah, food, water, rest. It's helpful when you're dealing with live animals.
Yeah, and it's one of the main things I think that Ale has over people is they don't rely on horses.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, when they're weighed down by all those pounds of armor.
Yep.
That makes it even worse on the horse.
Yep.
So Moraine oversaw Rand's packing for some reason. And when he finds that he only has fancy clothes, he thinks that she's messing with him, trying to use him. But the thing is, Moraine understands how important image is.
Yes.
Rand is finding it harder and harder to convince people that he's not a lord because she's made sure that he looks like a lord in his fancy coats. And we've already seen that Lan has taught him how to carry himself with the arrogance of a lord. So no one is going to look at Rand with his heron-marked sword and fancy embroidered coats and believe that he's just a shepherd from the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Moraine knows what she's doing.
And I think he only need a little bit of help from Lan with the arrogance thing. I mean,
Totally.
Rand's got enough in there. So, Massima.
He's terrible.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy who used to pick on smaller kids in school. It's no surprise that when he turns out to be one of the biggest assholes in the whole series, like, my first time reading, I didn't see him as much of a threat at first. Mm-hmm. But when you look closer at some of the smaller behaviors that he exhibits earlier on, you can see that he's clearly heading in a place that is going to be very bad. The way he slaps the food onto Rand's plate just to get his nice fancy clothes dirty, it's an example of the kind of bullying and mean-spirited behavior we'll see later on.
Yeah, totally.
Something occurred to me on this reread. Ingtar knows that Rand is not just a simple shepherd because he was at the Dark Friend social. So when he keeps saying, I ask no questions. When Rand tries to convince him that he's not a lord or an ale, it's not just the clothes that make him question Rand's claims. It's the fact that he knows Rand, Mat, and Perrin are being sought by the Dark One, or at least by one of the Forsaken, and must therefore be more than what they seem.
That actually makes sense. I hadn't thought about that. So we finally get some more information about the ale after being teased with them throughout the Eye of the World.
Right?
Ingtar describes them as death walking, with or without a weapon. If you have a sword and the Elman has his bare hands, it's an even fight, if you're good.
Wow.
Jordan did a really good job of building reader curiosity about this mysterious culture of fierce warriors.
I agree. Rand keeps thinking about hearing something worse. I can't remember when I first read the book if I could figure out what the something worse was or not. Mm-hmm. But looking back now, it's so obvious that it's Fane.
Yeah.
But if it's your first time through, I can imagine that you're still trying to figure out what is so horrible that they're following and what they'll do when they finally catch up to it. Either way, I do think that all of these ominous references are a good amount of suspense to add a good amount of suspense to the chase.
Uh-huh.
Or at least a sense of mystery.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was really not confusing, but it was mysterious the first time. Like
it was.
I certainly didn't understand the degree to which Fane has been changed.
Yeah.
You know? And so, like, you knew Fane was a bad guy, and you knew that he caused a bunch of trouble, but I don't think there was any way your first time through to really understand how bad he is. And so, yeah, like, you're reading all this stuff, and it's all this ominous foreboding of something worse, and you're wondering, what in the world is going on here, you know?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, Jordan did a really good job. So I love how cocky Mat is, picking up the bones out of the ashes, thinking that he expected worse from dark friends, but this is no big deal until Ingtar explains what Trollocs eat and that he's probably holding a bit of dark friend.
Oops.
I really like seeing this crappy version of Mat getting put in his place.
Yeah, yeah.
Suck it, Mat. I'm fine. It's fine. I'm fine.
Oh, just keep saying that. One of my problems with this chapter, with the whole book actually, is that it is a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
I had this problem with the Eye of the World as well. Like, the chapters that are all about traveling just seem to drag on. But at least in this book, we have some murder and mayhem helping it along the way.
Yay!
And this really does keep things going.
It actually does. Yeah, definitely. So the Dark Friends keep changing directions, and it's confusing the hell out of Ingtar and Co.
Right.
Because it doesn't make any sense.
Nope.
What's actually happening, though, is that Fane and Mordeth had not fully merged together yet. So when Padden Fane is in the driver's seat, he's still that sniveling dark friend he always was. So the Myrdrill's able to wrest control and drive the party north toward the Blight. But when Mordeth is in control, he's strong enough to overwhelm the Myrdrill, and they head south toward Toman Head.
Right.
Fane doesn't become fully merged until the end of this chapter when he kills the Myrdrill and the zigzagging stops.
You know, I had never put that together until you explained it to me. That's like, I always thought this was just a kind of badly written plotline, but now realizing that it's just the two going back and forth, it makes a lot more sense.
Fane, as he'll say later, he wasn't whole yet.
Right.
So he wasn't strong enough to overcome his fear of the Myrdrill, but he becomes more than just a man when Mordeth merges with him.
Right.
And Mordeth is scary as all hell, so
there's that.
Fade? What fade? Forget that.
Scary beyond all reason? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see Perrin's sense of smell really developing at this point.
Yeah.
He can smell the wrongness of the village, and he knows that something bad happened across the river. I don't think he smells things the same way that Huron does. Mm-hmm. So we can't identify that, murder was done necessarily. But he gets really good at identifying that wrongness, as he calls it. With practice, he can differentiate between all kinds of smells to give him clues as to like what situation he's about to walk into.
Yeah.
And Huron keeps eyeing him sideways, like, "Are you also a sniffer? Are you smelling what I'm smelling?" that's messed up, bro. Like, what is this?
Stepping on my territory, man.
No, I don't think that. He's like, this is a weird, terrible smell that I've never smelled before. What the hell, man? Help me out here.
Like, do you smell this too? Because I can't. I got it.
Yeah, like, please tell me that something's wrong with me because I don't want to know what we're going to find. That's why I think Hearn keeps eyeing him. I don't think it's like a jealousy or a threatening thing. I think he's like, are you smelling what I'm smelling? Because what is this?
I never thought of it that way. That's interesting.
Yeah.
To look at it.
I think he's like, this is a very, very rare thing. You know, very few people can do this. And if you can do it too, I have someone I can talk to and we can compare smells. And like, I'm scared. Are you also scared? Or is it
Should
okay?
we both be scared?
Like, are we scared together? No one else understands. Help me out here. That's what I think's going on.
We have meetings after 5.
Exactly, right? We've got cookies.
Just to clear the air, the woman in white that Uno keeps seeing is Landfair.
Yes, definitely.
And more on her in a few chapters.
Boo. So there's a ton of build up to the big bad thing that has happened.
Yeah.
They get across the river and find the flayed bodies of Changu and Naito hanging from the tree. And it's a pretty gruesome scene.
Yeah, it's really gory, and it's enough to make even the hardened soldiers want to throw up.
Uh-huh.
But I noticed this time that Rand seeks the void, and it makes things worse.
Right, yeah.
Like the text says, the Cuisinus pulsed in the void with him, though, not outside, for once, but inside. And Rand thinks that it's because the scene is so grisly that he can't avoid wanting to sick up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that it's actually Rand feeling the taint on Sedin.
Yeah.
Like, later on, we're going to see every time that he touches the source, he feels sick because the Dark One's taint is there. And I'm not 100% certain, but I think this is what's happening here. He's already starting to have an adverse reaction to touching the power. Am I off in left field here? Or what do you think?
No, I totally think you're right. I think that this is the first time that he senses or notices the vileness of the taint. He just isn't experienced enough with it to identify it for what it is.
Okay.
And, you know, like you said, we'll see as he starts to channel more and he relies on like wrapping himself in the void and all that kind of stuff, he's going to notice it a lot more each time he touches the source. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. So yeah, I totally think you're right.
Yay.
The Shinarian burial ritual is simple and beautiful.
Yes.
Loyal explains, Shinarians believe we all came from Earth and must return to Earth. They never use coffins or shrouds, and the bodies are never clothed. The Earth must hold the body. The last embrace of the mother, they call it. And there are never any words except, the light shine on you and the Creator shelter you. The last embrace of the mother welcome you home. We've said this before, but Jordan is excellent at writing simple ceremony.
Yes, he is.
It's beautiful.
I'm fairly certain Igtar is already regretting his decision to become a Dark Ren. Mm-hmm. Like, he says the last rites over these two because he knows there's a chance no one will say it over his grave.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, they're obviously traitors.
Well, but are they though? Because isn't Ingtar the one that let the Trollocs in? Everyone thinks that they're traitors because they assume, since they left with Fane, that they're the ones that let the Dark Friends in. But Ingtar is the one who did it.
True.
So they might not be traitors. I mean, Fane twisted their minds, so who knows what's going on with them. But as far as Ingtar is concerned, it's very possible that they're not guilty.
You know, I hadn't thought of it that way.
But I do agree with you. Like, I think he is regretting his decision, and I think he knows that he not only is what happened to them his fault, but he deserves punishment. Like, he deserves to die and have no one give him a proper burial. And so he wants to give them that respect because he's worried about himself. Like, I think he's just becoming overwhelmed with guilt and regret.
That also explains why he's so desperate to get that horn.
Yeah. Yeah, which we'll talk about later as he gets more and more crazy about it.
Jordan spends a good amount of time talking about the lost nations that are no more. And it's all a setup to help us understand Ingtar's motivation to becoming a servant of the Dark One. Like Ingtar says, how long before we too go under? And there's nothing left but the Trollocs and the Murderall, all the way to the Sea of Storms. Ingtar is a rare dark friend in that his motivation is not for power or glory. He simply does not see the world ending any other way than in the hands of the Dark One. So he's backing the horse he thought would win.
Yeah.
And this whole book shows us Ingtar is a person who made the decision that they thought was right at the time and regrets it more and more each day. Now that's an interesting bad guy character.
Yeah. Well, and when you say he backed the horse he thought he would win, or that he thought would win, he didn't do it for himself. He did it because he thought it was the only way to save Shinar.
Right.
Like, it wasn't that he was out for selfish motivation and thought the Dark Lord is wait, no, that's Harry Potter. The Dark One, whatever. The big bad guy. You know, the bad guys are going to win no matter what, so I need to be on the winning team. He figured the bad guys are going to win no matter what, and the only way to save my people is if we all join that team.
Because then we'll be spared.
Yeah. So he is just a really compelling character.
Yeah.
They also talk about the big battle Hawkwing won over the Trollocs and the monument they put up of him, so that later, when Rand and Co. are stuck in the alternate portal stone reality, they see the contrast of the other statue showing that Hawkwing lost in that world.
Yeah. That was interesting. Like the way those two connect throughout.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that's the only reason that's in there is so that we can tell, oh, this is an alternate reality. Oh, okay.
Got it. Okay. They get to another empty village. The incident with the house and the time loop has always been weird for me and really hard to read.
Yeah.
Jordan hadn't 100% hammered out all the rules of this world, I think. So there are still a lot of oddities in this book.
Yeah.
By the time we get to book 3 and beyond, things get a lot more congruent.
They do, absolutely.
This book in particular has some odd time stuff that we won't see repeated in any other book in the series. Like, I remember when I read this the first time thinking that this was really cool, but still being really confused. To be honest, I usually skip over this part of the book when I reread it.
So do I. I don't love this part. Well, I mean, the flies are nasty, but just, it's weird. And
it's just so repetitive and like...
Well, and it never comes up again. So,
yeah.
I mean, you can kind of just throw it away, you know?
It relates to nothing.
Yeah. But the coolest, creepiest thing ever is the fade nailed to the door.
Right?
I know we keep using the word ominous, but Jordan did such a good job ratcheting up the dread about what new horrors we were going to come across. I remember my shock the first time I read this, wondering what the hell could do that to a Murdral. And also wondering how much worse it was going to get, because this is only chapter 10.
Right?
There's still plenty of time to escalate.
Oh, yes.
Like, it was just so well done.
Yeah. Awesome. That brings us to the end of chapter 10. But before we move on to chapter 11, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Today's episode of the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru is brought to you by Alternative Swear Words. No need to worry about the bloody explicit rating when the flaming words aren't dirty to the goat-kissing officials. Alternative Swear Words. Give them a try, you sheep-gutted milk drinker. It does a body good.
Chapter 11 of The Great Hunt is called Glimmers of the Pattern, and the icon is the wheel.
Still shaken from the events of the day, the Shanarians make camp early. Rand overhears Uno insisting that he saw the same woman in white from the ferry right before they found the Murdral nailed up. She was there, and then she wasn't. Ingtar hands Rand a bundle, saying that Moraine instructed him to give it to Rand at the first camp south of the River Ernin. His life may depend on it. He also tells Rand that he's Ingtar's second, and if anything happens to him, the Shanarians will follow Rand. Baffled, Rand tries to deny it, saying, again, that he's just a shepherd, but Ingtar tells him that he believes Rand has it in him, and he will do his duty if the time comes. With a sinking suspicion that he knows what's in the bundle, Rand sneaks off into the trees to open it. Sure enough, Rand finds that Moraine has sent him the dragon banner. Matt bursts into the clearing, Perrin trailing behind him, raging about Rand's fancy coats, and now he has a banner to boot. He's taken aback when he sees the banner clearly and recognizes it for what it is. Angrily, Rand tells them that Moraine and the Amyrlin are trying to set him up as a false dragon, but he won't be used. Matt freaks out, but Perrin quietly asks Rand if he can channel. Rand finally admits his secret. Matt starts ranting about how if the soldiers find out, they will kill all three of them, or else Rand will go crazy and kill them all. Perrin tells him to shut up, but he can't seem to stop himself. He asks why the Aes Sedai didn't gentle him, and Rand tells him that Moraine told him he was the Dragon Reborn. They ask why he didn't run away, and Rand explains that he wanted to, but the dagger was stolen, and they said Matt would die without it, so he had to help find it. Matt is momentarily touched, but he's afraid of Rand and wants to be as far away from him as possible. Matt walks away, and Rand asks Perrin how he feels. Perrin says that he's not sure, but advises Rand that he should try to run away to where Aes Sedai can't get to him, though he admits that sometimes you can't get away. Perrin leaves too, and Rand seriously considers getting rid of the banner, but finally decides to hang on to it just in case Moraine is right and his life does depend on it. Rand beds down on the other side of the camp from Matt and Perrin, joining Loial and Huron. Loial is inspecting a half-buried stone with strange markings on it. Loial and Huron catch on to Rand's bad mood and don't bother him. Rand finally drifts off to sleep. The void surrounded him, flickering with an uneasy glow that disturbed his dreams. Fane sits in the dark playing with a ruby-hilted dagger, reveling in the memory of nailing the Myrtle to the door. At first, he had struggled, the Myrtle trying to take the party north toward the Blight and Shale Gul instead of south, like Fane wanted. But that was over now that he was whole. He's brought back out of his reverie by the sound of weeping. He regrets allowing the Trollocs to bring so many people with them. They're slowing them down, and Fane orders the Trollocs to kill all the villagers and leave their remains arranged for his pursuers to find. He had not figured out how to unlock the chest yet, but he was confident that it would come to him eventually. He was not able to sense Althor at that moment, but he was not worried. There were several instances in Fal Dara where Rand would do his vanishing trick, but he always returned. Fane was not the Hound any longer. This time, Althor would come to him, and they would dance on Tom and Head, and Fane would finally be free.
Rand is navel-gazing in this chapter to the point of distraction. He's trying to put together the weirdness that's been thrown in his way over the last couple days of the journey. Being caught staring off into space with one foot still in saddle stirrups is a little embarrassing if you've been there for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ingtar tells Rand that he's a second, which explains the weird looks Uno has been giving him. But Rand wants nothing to do with it. He can feel Moraine pulling his strings even from afar, and he resents the hell out of it.
Yep.
And he's getting really sick of no one believing him when he tells them he's just a farmer. Poor Rand. This is actually a huge responsibility, and I can't blame him for feeling completely inadequate and ambushed by it. Even when Ingtar tells him that he believes in him and that he knows Rand will do his duty, Rand's like, I can't do this.
Yeah, I find it interesting that while Ingtar admits Rand is not his first choice as second in command, he still thinks Rand is capable of filling that role. Mm-hmm. Like, Ingtar has not had a lot of experience with Rand at this point. It's amazing what a fancy set of clothes, a cool sword, and an Aes Sedai backing you can do for people's perception of you. I guess this is mostly driven by his faith in Lord Egomar's ability to make decisions, and Egomar is the one that named Rand second.
Right.
Do you think this was too much too fast for him?
Maybe. It is interesting that no one believes him, that he's just a shepherd, even though he's constantly saying it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is kind of weird that Ingtar would feel that he's up to the task when he doesn't know Rand.
They've seen him train with Lan.
Yeah,
so they
that
know
gives him
he's
some credibility.
He's got a little bit of credit there, but no one's actually seen him fight. No one's actually seen him lead.
That's the most important part. No one's ever seen him lead because he hasn't.
Right.
Yeah, I do think it's a little fast, but at the same time, if you think about where this book is going to take us and where we pick up in book 3,
sure,
he kind of needs to get
thrown into it.
Yeah, like he needs to get past this I'm just a shepherd boy thing, because pretty soon he's going to be leading a lot of people.
Friggin' Dragon Reborn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I guess that's not until book 4. I get confused. Anyway, the point is, yes, you were right. It does happen kind of fast, and it's kind of weird, but it's the trajectory we know that he's going on, so we might as well just get it over with.
Okay, I can buy that.
Yeah. Matt and Perrin finally discover that Rand can channel, and it does not go well.
Nope.
Matt completely freaks, and he does not come off well here. Perrin keeps a cooler head, which I'll give him props for, but he still isn't what I would call supportive.
No.
They both tell Rand that he's dangerous and that he should run. Even when Rand explains that he's sticking around to help Matt find the dagger, and we get a moment of hope that Matt will stop being a jerk and they'll be friends again, it's dashed by Matt being terrible.
Yeah.
He basically says, look, I appreciate the gesture, but you're not the same guy anymore, and I want nothing to do with you. All those years of friendship, over. This was the same guy who was begging Rand not to leave him helpless on the side of the Camelin Road when they were running for their lives and Matt was slowing them down.
Yep.
All that we're in this together and we need to take care of each other stuff evaporated without a second thought.
Yeah.
And I judged Matt pretty harshly for it.
And rightfully so.
Yeah, like, Perrin handles it better. He doesn't outright kick Rand to the curb, and he does tell Matt to shut up twice. He needs some time to think about it, which is fair, I guess. But he's been a gutless follower this whole time, and essentially he goes after Matt. I know they were raised to think of men who could channel as monsters, but they've been best friends their whole lives. And that seems to mean nothing here.
Yeah, I was really disappointed. Every time I read through this, there's that very, like, come on. You guys know each other.
Yeah.
You know who Rand is. Why are you guys just ditching him? Like, he's explained it. Why?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if they weren't lifelong best friends, then maybe I'd understand it better. But they've been so close their entire lives. You know? I mean, both Nynaeve and Egwene had a moment of, oh God, he can channel. This is bad. But they got over it pretty quickly, you know? And I feel like he's been closer to Matt and Perrin. So they also should get over it. You know?
I agree.
I really am disappointed in the both of them, you know?
Fane is creepy as all get out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we find out for certain that he was the one that killed the Fade in the previous chapter, and he is relishing the memory. Fane is not my favorite character, but at least in this book, he serves a purpose.
Yeah.
I can remember the first time through the series being really interested in what was going to happen with this bad guy. He was a good villain for the book. Mm-hmm. Having said that, I really would appreciate it if he had died much earlier in the game.
Yeah.
Like, while he is creepy, I think he's overdone and kind of overused, especially later on in the series.
Yeah, definitely. I think he was a really good bad guy for the first couple of books.
Yeah.
Like, he really, really caused some mayhem. He did a good job of being a bad guy. But then I feel like he became sort of a cliche of himself.
Yep.
And I feel like as Rand levels up and he's dealing with actual Forsaken and, you know, some really serious threats, that he kind of outgrew Fane.
He did.
And so every time Fane popped up again, it was like, are we dealing with this guy
didn't
again?
we kill him yet? Come on.
Yeah. You know, it just... I do think that he was a great villain for the first couple books, but he should have died way earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What can you do? The only thing else that I have to talk about is that Fane can't sense Rand at the moment.
Right.
And he thinks about Rand's vanishing trick. What's that about?
Fane can't sense Rand when he's channeling. I think that's what happens.
Why?
I'm not sure. It could be something about the way when he wraps himself in the void and he is preparing to touch the source, maybe something protects him from Fane's ability to sense him.
But why? I mean, like,
Plot
sure,
device?
okay, but like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Well, specifically, okay, that's just in general. Like when Fane talks about how sometimes when he's in the castle, like Rand kind of like
His vanishing check?
vanished. Here specifically, I think it's more than just the power.
Well, yeah, this is because he's being portaled to another world.
Yeah, as we're going to find out in the next chapter, yeah. Like, he literally does vanish from the plane.
Right. Like, is it only here because that way Fane doesn't know something had happened? Like, is this really just a plot device so Fane doesn't realize that Rand has blinked out of this world?
I think so. Like, because later, like, Fane's Rand radar will kick...
Randar.
Randar. Yeah, we'll call it that from here on out. Patent pending. Like, he goes ahead and he can sense him later when they pop out of the alternate world, and it throws Fane off because of how the heck did he get all the way over there in Camelin? Is it Camelin or Carrion? Carrion, my bad. But that's miles away from where he disappeared. And so I think that's part of what's going on there. It is a plot device. And I think it's there specifically to confuse Fane. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it has any other useful consequences later on.
Okay, yeah. It didn't actually make any sense of why that would happen. So I was just wondering if you had a logical excuse or if it was just writers being writers.
I don't know why the logics of the magic system work where, I'm wrapping myself in the power and now Fane can't sense me. I don't know why that works, but I'm fairly certain that is what's happening here.
Okay.
That ends chapters 10 and 11 of The Great Hunt. Join us next week for chapters 12 and 13, where the girls start their lessons in the power and Rand and Loyal and Huron find a new definition of the word lost.
We hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru.
We'll see you again next week. Make sure that you rate and subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you grab your podcasts. If you could leave us a positive review, it would really help us out. You can tweet us at WhatPodThru or email us at whatpodthru@gmail.com and tell us your thoughts on anything we covered today.
That's WOTPODTHRU@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody, and we hope the wheel weaves you in our direction again soon. No need to worry about the bloody explicit rating when the flaming words aren't dirty enough for the... Wait, what?
Aren't dirty enough.
Okay, let me try that again. I messed up.